Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now October 9th of 2023, and given that Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, and even the Disney Board of Directors are anticipating more box office failures on their end, such as with The Marvels, which by the way releases on November 10th, as well as the Snow White live-action remake, which is still slated for that March of 2024 release date window. Now there's a lot of things that Disney has been going through with this film, a lot of trouble, a lot of damage control that they have been going through with this movie, and to top things all off, there's a lot of things happening with the drama behind the scenes involving Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, Andrew Burnap, and even director Mark Webb. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Snow White 24 is that we all know that this movie is going to fail, and it's going to fail hard. Not just because of the fact that Greta Gerwig wrote this movie, but also over the fact of what they did with the 7 magical creatures, is what Disney calls them now instead of the 7 dwarfs, because let's face it, they're not 7 dwarfs like in the original 37 tale. What Bob Iger is now embracing, and this is his favorite word, is a new iteration, quote unquote. That's exactly what they use as a way of diverting from themselves, you know, getting involved in any kind of culture war. Now, Disney and Bob Iger specifically had a lot to comment on the ongoing Snow White backlash and everything happening with the fan response and the general public actually reacting to what's been going on with the leaked photographs and a whole lot more on top of all of that. However, alright, now, with Disney CEO Bob Iger desperately attempting to course-correct Disney and all of their projects, one major development has to do with what he was able to deliver in response to the ongoing Snow White backlash. Bob Iger went on to deliver the following. We have carefully reviewed the response we have been receiving from the general public regarding our reimagining of the popular Snow White tale. We have come to the conclusion that any kind of unsatisfied reactions going against our innovative rebranding of Snow White is nothing more than a minority. We don't get involved in any kind of culture wars, and nor do we here at Disney support something like that. It has become, quite frankly, very frustrating for us here at this company, dealing with the blame for starting any kind of culture war, and we find that to be disgusting behavior. To relax our shareholders and those that are satisfied customers with us, we can confirm that this is something that we don't embrace in any of our projects. Now guys, let me say one thing quick about Bob Iger before I get to the next big thing that he talks about, is that yes, they do fully support culture wars. That's exactly what they're doing, and what they have done, by the way, with, you know, race swapping The Little Mermaid in the current film that released this year, and let's not forget about what they plan to do with Sword in the Stone, Lilo and Stitch, and even Moana, as well as a lot more like Hercules on the table. A lot of things are going to be changing the story around, shifting away from the source material as a way to kind of rebuild what pop culture once was. That's what they want to do at the end of the day. I mean, it's not like a crazy thing or anything like that. This is something that Disney is actually doing. They are breaking down fully established stories that have been beloved for generations, and this is what he talks about in just a second about generations. And the fact that they are fully lying about Snow White, Bob Iger, as I always call him Bob Liger, he is actually lying hard about Snow White 2024, saying that it has no kind of culture war intact with this film or anything related to it in that sense. Now this is where things get interesting, because Bob Iger goes on to elaborate things further about his view of the backlash and his overall approach for Disney embracing all of these new reimaginings of popular Snow White, you know, tales in this case, or other stories out there such as Hercules, Sword in the Stone, etc., etc. Now, he goes on to elaborate further. What we are in pursuit of with these new films are nothing more than new iterations of different characters, such as what we did with the very popular and successful Little Mermaid this year, if you even want to call it successful, by the way. He continues, "We expect Snow White to perform very well at the box office, as this is a Disney classic tale that has been around for generations." So there he goes, talking about generations, right? As if that's going to be enough to make this a box office success. Look, we already know that families are boycotting this film. They want nothing to do with it. They're already turning their backs on Disney. And you know what? The number of attendees, at least at the Orlando destination, it speaks for itself right there, right? That just goes to show you what kind of alarming state Disney is in right now, and they should be worried. You know, I know that a lot of people that I know, including myself, have long, distance, from Disney and anything related to the material that they put out there, because we saw what they did with Star Wars, we saw what they are currently doing with Marvel, and Marvel's really hit and miss nowadays anyway, and what they are actively doing with the live-action remakes. Now, it gets worse. He goes on to take things up a level. He goes on to say, "Taking everything into account, this supposed backlash that we have received is not worrisome to enough to the point of making any kind of a drastic change or alteration at last minute. We have no doubt in our mind that this will be one of our most profitable projects in years past. We here at Disney advise those making all the noise to keep inflammatory opinions to yourself, and this completely unnecessary scenario for us to deal with for an innocent creation by Mr. Webb and the value of the story written by Greta and Aaron." He's talking about Greta Gerwig and Aaron Wilson, by the way. "This is a film that holds no agenda and has become extremely difficult to manage ongoing criticism that is false and made out to be the majority around the world. We have received nothing but a great response from the creators who have been putting this film together, and we will continue to create new iterations of popular Disney characters to keep original content in place." Now, look, he's lying and doubling down at the same exact time here. We know that Snow White is going through a lot of changes, a lot of re-edits, a lot of, overall ways to shift around the scenes, shaving down the running time. The test screenings have been failing one after the other, and this happened very similar to everything with Aquaman 2. Alright, in the beginning, you had director James Wan saying that, the test screening was so well and screeners really loved this movie and stuff like that, and in the end, it really led to people walking out and having nothing to do with this movie and keeping Amber Heard in the film. Now, the thing about Bob Iger, and I've said this many times, he's going to say whatever he has to say to satisfy shareholders, to string along the general public, to at least just fork over some change and watch this movie in theaters, and that's all they care about at the end of the day. Once they get their sum, they're going to move on to the next project. And look, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this movie really does at the box office. Is it going to do bad, or is it going to do, a whole lot worse than we would ever even imagine? That's another big, question that I think a lot of us are asking ourselves. Is it going to be the worst film of all time by Disney? I say yes. I really do believe that. So overall, guys, I would really love to hear what you all have to say about this entire scenario by Bob Iger and Disney involving Snow White, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again, no.